Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Clay. I am the CEO of Suran Systems. Joining me today is Chris Widener from our marketing department. So without much further ado, we're going to go ahead and dive in and take a look at mobile receipts. The goal of mobile receipts is to create invoices and accounts payable. You can use this for staff that are making purchases on the church credit card, or are able to charge things to your organization's bank account. If you're placing an order and you've been invoiced for that, you can key that in as well. But anytime where you might currently have expense reporting, that might be fill out a form, put the purpose for it, staple a copy of the receipt, hand it in, and then you turn around and key that into accounts payable. If you have any kind of process like that in your organization, mobile receipts should be your best new friend, because it's going to cut a lot of that work out. And especially today, with so much of us being physically separated from each other, this can be a great benefit as you're trying to go more and more paperless. So the invoices that get submitted from from mobile receipts, they can include a scan or multiple scans of the receipt. I'll show you how that works. You can go ahead and break down your receipt. So if you have something that goes partially to office expenses and then partially to the youth account, you can do that breakdown right then and there. And you can also indicate how you're making this payment, if you're doing a credit card or a debit card or just a straight invoice. And I'll show you a little more about how that affects the invoice in CDM Plus. Your staff will receive a notification when new invoices come in. So in the office, you've got a good idea of all the records coming in. And once those invoices are in CDM Plus, you process them just like any other accounts payable invoice. But our hope is, because a lot of the data entry is being done for you up front, it'll actually be a lot easier and a lot quicker to process. Currently, the accounts payable invoice more or less goes through these sort of 4 stages. I didn't include purchase orders in here, but that could be one leading up to entry. So you put in your invoice. You then mark it to be paid via some method. That could be a check, a credit card, debit card, or auto draw. If you're doing a check, you can print that out, and then you post those invoices to your ledger. This is the way accounts receivable works. It's worked this way for many, many, many years and works just fine. But with mobile receipts, we ask the question, how can we put some technology to bear to make this process faster and easier for you? So when we put mobile receipts in the mix, the first thing we can do is we can say, well, these are credit cards, these are debit cards, and so on. Let's just get rid of those checks. So now we're down to basically 3 steps instead of 4. So let's bring in CDM Plus Mobile with mobile receipts on it. And as I said, we can submit receipts with various payment methods. So the easiest one is, or the most straightforward, is to create a receipt that's just going to be a straight invoice. So when you do that, CDM Plus Mobile takes your back office process straight to the point of marking that invoice to be paid. Now, we think what's likely going to happen is that you've got people with a credit card for your organization or debit card, and they're making those expenses straight on that card. So that means when you submit this payment or this receipt, you can say, I'm putting this on my MasterCard, and that means that we're able to then send you straight over to the posting, and that gets rid of all of the data entry. So CDM Plus Mobile is either going to take it right to where you just need to mark and post your invoice, or if you're paying with a credit card or debit card, you can take those receipts from mobile and post them to your ledger, and that's it. There's nothing else you need to do in the accounts payable process. So hopefully this is going to be a great time saver for you. So that's enough kind of theory here. The first thing I want to show you is from the perspective of a staff person with CDM Plus Mobile, what is it like for them to submit a receipt, right? Because you're going to have anywhere from a couple dozen to 50, 60, 70 people that need to get trained on how to use this feature. So much like the rest of mobile, we tried to make this as just easy and intuitive as possible. So I want to walk you through as if I'm submitting a receipt into the database. So I'm going to share my iPhone here. and we're seeing my home screen. And I've got CDM Plus Mobile loaded towards the bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. That'll bring me into mobile and let me log in. And now I'm logged into mobile, ready to go. The first thing you should notice in the bottom left there is I have a new option for receipts. And this is turned on in CDM Plus. I'll show you how to turn that on in just a minute. But we're looking at what happens as a staff person. I'm already set up. Let's just go ahead and key in a receipt. So let's say, for example, we're at a point where we can all kind of safely be together in the office. It's Thursday, it's almost the weekend, it's fall, I'm feeling particularly generous, and we've got a little money set aside for some office snacks. So I decided to go to Krispy Kreme and pick up a dozen pumpkin spice donuts because I'm just a nice person like that. So here's how I'm going to put that receipt into CDM Plus Mobile. So first, I'm going to tap Add Scan. And when I do that, it's going to bring up my camera ready to take a picture of anything that I want. And I've got a receipt right here to Krispy Kreme, and I'm going to go ahead and take a picture. And I can look at that and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. I could retake it if I kind of got it crooked, but that one looks straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, use this image. So there's my scan. Now I can look at the date. Yes, that was today. If I tap on Payee, I get a list of all of the vendors that are in CDM Plus. And I'm going to start typing, oh, there's Krispy Kreme. Go ahead and put that in there. And I can see it's already on my MasterCard. It's billed to office supplies. I can go to the description and I can say Thursday treat for the office staff. And go ahead and hit done. And that's going to go as my description. And then I'm going to tap the amount, and this was $11.99. That's all I need to do. I'll just tap save in the top right, and that'll take just a moment to submit that up to CDM Plus, and then I'm finished. And that's it. That's all it takes to submit a receipt. Now we're going to come back to this window in a minute, and I'll show you some breakdowns and some additional scans and walk through these in more detail. But I want to show you, now that this receipt has come through, kind of what happens next from there. So I'm going to give me a quick second, and I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen around. So what happened when I submitted that receipt, the first thing is it's saved in CDM Plus, but then it turned around and sent me a notification because I'm set up also as a staff person, and I can see that, oh, looks like Alex went to Krispy Kreme and got us some donuts. So this is just the email notification. I'll show you how you can customize these, but you'll get these as people are submitting receipts. Again, let you know kind of what's going on. So let's see exactly how that looks in CDM Plus. So I'm going to come in here to CDM Plus, and I'm going to find the last entry made here, and that's going to pull up my mobile receipt because I'm in the right database. So here we can see my Krispy Kreme receipt for $11.99 on November 5th. Here's my description. That's all ready to go. If I click on user fields, I'm going to see a mobile scan right here. Click preview, and that's going to pull up a scan of that receipt so I can refer to it. Now this scan and this invoice will stay in CDM Plus until you either delete it or you actually archive those out. But otherwise, this data is going to be in the program for perpetuity, basically as long as you need it there. Because I made this payment against my MasterCard, if you'll notice here on this invoice, it's actually already marked to be paid. So I can simply go from here straight over to post my payables to the ledger. And what you're going to see is here is this payable to Krispy Kreme. It's going to get paid to the office credit cards. That's all good to go. And when I post that, it'll turn around and, because this is a credit card invoice, it'll create an accrual to debit my 5110 account. It'll credit the amount into my office credit cards liability here, 2510, and then leave an accrued invoice to be paid off to that MasterCard account. And that's it. From this point, we just do accounts payable work as we always do. So hopefully you can see that's definitely saves a lot of the paperwork, any kind of scanning. I've got rich data from the receipts there. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit more of kind of how we set this up and a few more options with how we submit the receipt, and then we'll take some questions. So let's look at the setup for your CDM Plus Mobile. That is done under the administration window in CDM Plus. So under File and Administration, I've got an option here to see all of the mobile devices that I've set up in this database. So right here, I'll click on Mobile, and you'll see that I've got my device listed right here. We've got a few others listed. Now, if you already have people using CDM Plus Mobile on their device, other than update to the new version, there's really nothing they need to do to get access to receipts. And so often anymore, your mobile apps will auto update. So it's a good chance they're already ready to go if they're on iOS. All you need to do to give them access to receipts is click on this new receipts tab right here on their mobile provision and click enabled to turn this on. And that will simply turn on the ability for them to submit a receipt. You can then choose whether or not you want to notify staff people of when there are new receipts created. This you can turn off on each provision. So if you have staff members submitting receipts and you want those emails, turn this option on for their provision. If you are also using to submit mobile receipts to submit invoices and you don't need a notification of what you just did, leave this turned off on your provision, for example. The staff who are going to receive those notifications, similar to what I showed you a minute ago, are available here when I click Edit Staff. You can add as many email addresses as you would like. This is the same list of staff email addresses for all provisions. So once you configure it on one device, that's good to go for everyone else. The most interesting piece here are these payment methods. First, I have invoice, and when I submit a receipt to be paid by invoice, that's going to go straight into accounts payable, but it won't be marked to be paid by any particular method. Again, very straightforward, and this would be a good option if you were indeed ordering something that needed to be paid by a check or direct deposit later on. Next, we have auto draw. So this is a good option if you, for example, have a debit card that goes against your organization's checking account. Or if somebody has the ability to go ahead and just make a direct payment using account number and routing number as an ACH. I can click this drop list here, and this will give me a list of all of the different assets that I'm able to enable on this device. Now, these settings are per device. So if you only have certain people that should be able to make a payment using a debit card, you would only turn this on their device. On another provision for another device here, you might leave that turned off. The final option are credit cards. This uses the ability in CDM Plus Accounts Payable to define a vendor as a credit card vendor. You then can mark invoices to be paid by credit card, and it automatically does an accrual process to record first we had a purchase to a vendor, and then we have a payment to that corresponding credit card. That's a standard feature in Accounts Payable. If you have questions on how that works, you check the documentation or give our support team a call, and we'll be happy to kind of explain how that works. But here, this works great with mobile receipts. You can have a credit card vendor as in this case, I've got vendors for each staff person defined, or if you just have one credit card vendor for the overall credit card that's used by your organization, that's just fine too. It's really up to you as to how much level of detail you want to track at this level here. And that's it. You just need to enable which payment methods they have, and you're good to go. So let's go back into CDM Plus Mobile itself, and I want to show you a couple more things that we can do within CDM Plus Mobile. So let's say this time we went to Jimmy John's, and we got some sandwiches for the youth department, but we also maybe picked up a little treat or so for the office. I apologize if any of you are on low sugar diets or whatnot. Office treats are just so much fun to talk about. So that's my example here. First, you'll notice at the top, add scan is optional. You do not have to put scans with your receipts. In fact, that makes it very quick and very easy to submit mobile receipts and get invoices directly into CDM Plus. but I can also scan one receipt or multiple receipts. So I'm going to go ahead and go to add a scan here. And here I've got this, this lovely receipt from Jimmy John's. And I want to get it nice and big here. So I'm going to zoom in and kind of tap this first half of the receipt. And then if I have maybe a really long receipt or a multi-page receipt, I can tap add scan and go ahead and put in a second scan here. And those will both be saved together into CDM Plus. So now I've got two entered. The date will default to today, but if I'm maybe going and entering in some receipts on Monday that I had from over the weekend, for example, I can simply tap and change that to any other date. And this will affect the invoice and due date of that receipt, but I'll leave that in for today. On the payee, you've got all of the payees in your CDM Plus database available. Now, right now, there's no way to add a new payee from Mobile Receipts. That's a feature that we're looking to add in a little down the road. And we've got some great ideas on how we can do that and still give you control to manage adding new vendors or maybe linking to an existing vendor. But for today, this is an area where the miscellaneous vendors feature in CDM Plus Accounts Payable really works well. If you're not familiar with this, miscellaneous vendors are a particular type of vendor that allow you to temporarily rename the vendor while an invoice is unpaid or being marked or printed. That vendor will retain their sort of temporary name, and once posted, that vendor reverts back to miscellaneous. So here I can just start typing miscellaneous, and I can pick one. And you seeing this receipt, you'll know, okay, well, it says Jimmy John's on it, but hopefully your staff people will key that in. The number here, this is the invoice number, and that will go straight to the invoice number field in CDM Plus. I've got 95. And then here below number, I've got my payment method. And this is where you can see I can choose invoice or an auto draw or a credit card. And CDM Plus Mobile will remember the last payment method that you used, working under the assumption that you commonly pay from the same card. So or payment method. So I'm just going to choose my MasterCard here. And in the lower section, we have breakdowns. You can add, you have to have at least one, but you can add as many as you need to. So when I chose miscellaneous, I didn't have an account selected by default. So first, I'm going to tap on accounts, and I get access to the full chart of accounts out of my database, anything that's not inactive. And first, I've got a youth ministries expense here of $51.80. And that was actually for the sandwiches themselves. Which is great. And we're going to actually use one of these fun little emojis here. Just again, we're on a mobile device, and that's all great for mobile. And our full receipt was $22. So the sandwiches were $15. And then I can say we also need to recognize, if I tap Add Breakdown, that I've got an account here. And again, this is going to be our office supplies. And this is maybe for that little extra bonus that we picked up. So we got some cookies on here, and that's going to be our $7. And now I've got my full amount of 22, and I'll go ahead and save it. So how does that come through in CDM Plus? Let me go ahead and get a switch back in here to CDM Plus, and let's take a look at this invoice. So I'm going to go under Program to Payables and Invoice Records. And I'll go ahead and pull up maybe the last entry that's made here. The other thing I might do is I could also find on anything that was entered through CDM Plus Mobile. So here I might choose Source equal to CDM Plus Mobile. I've got both CDM Plus and CDM Plus Mobile here. You go ahead and click Find, and this will show me all of the invoices that were created from CDM Plus Mobile. So here's my miscellaneous invoice. I can see I've got my breakdowns with my cryptic yet fun emojis. I've got my dates and so on. Here's that invoice 95. If I click under user fields, because I had two scans, I can now go ahead and preview this first scan and give that a sec to come through. So here's the top half of our receipts. And then I can preview the scan on the lower section, and I can look at both of those. Good to go. And I can see, wait a second, this isn't miscellaneous. This is to Jimmy John's. They're over buying sandwiches and cookies again. And it's simply easy enough to go here and just click change. And I'm going to change this to my Jimmy John's vendor and go ahead and save. And now I've got this queued up and ready to go. As I said, these both came into my credit card. Let me show you how these look on Mark Invoices to Pay. Again, if the invoice is all ready to go, was put to the right account, you don't need to do this step. But as you're going to be in probably Mark Invoices to Pay, seeing a mix of mobile receipts as well as ones you've keyed in, we can see these are in here marked for credit card. They're already marked to the Alex Clay credit card account and vendor, and they're ready to go. And another feature we added for mobile receipts, but this is valid for anything in 11.1, is the ability to go in and change what the payment account is right here in case you need to do that. This is one place where those independent credit card vendors, if you have a lot of those, is going to be really handy. You can kind of see at a glance who's purchasing what. So from here, I can go ahead and save this. I can go ahead and post it. And that, because these are credit card invoices, will post. It'll create an invoice that's now payable to this MasterCard account, and I can then make a credit card payment at some point from there, and off we go. So let me show you just really quickly kind of how that posts through. I'll go ahead and click post here. And that'll just take a moment to post through. And that looks good. So here I've got my posting report. And from there, now I've paid my 2 invoices. They have been replaced with invoices that are now payable to my credit card vendor. But the nice thing is, if I need to see those receipts later on, let me go down here and choose this charge right here. I can turn around and I can jump to the original invoice. And this is the one that was entered from mobile receipts. And under my user fields, I can get to my scan. So there we go. So that's pretty much the extent of it. We hope that this will be nice and easy to go through. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today. I certainly hope you find this feature useful. Everyone has a wonderful rest of your Thursday, good safe weekend. Hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar.